My name is Thomas Krank. I'm the CSO of K&L Industries. We are based in Shanghai. We are manufacturer and of valves, pipes and fittings. We not only sell imported valves from Europe, we even do the export from China with pipes, fittings and valves. And this is in the moment our business model, including our SCS, supply chain management system for European companies and for local and international EPC contractors. K&L sits between European compliance expectation and Chinese execution capability. We don't sell, we control factory accesses, certification, delivery timelines. So what that means? So it means we are not only a trade company. No, that is actually not true. We are actually the interface between European companies and the execution. And that is, I think, a very important issue. Because nowadays, a lot of companies reach out to me via LinkedIn or from friends, they recommend me. And then we discuss this. So, and I explain very clearly why China is, in my opinion, still unmatched. Because the industrial depth, full supply chain in one region, the scale, no production at this volume, and the speed. Lead times Europe cannot match because we have in Europe too much regulations. What is actually that breaks the whole system, and that is, I think, a very important issue to understand. Because if you see the last 25 years how China developed, that is really a pace that is not normal. We Europeans can't, match it because our regulations doesn't actually help us. It is actually, I don't know how to say this. I think it breaks industries because we have so much regulation, especially nowadays from a European community. For example, the Green Deal. This really is for this new technology, KI and AI. It's actually a disaster. Why? Because we need a lot of power supply. So the Chinese did the Green Deal in their way. How? They have developed new technologies. This technology is nuclear power plants. They use even the best technology from Europe, from Russia, from China, and then they develop their own, their own standard. What is actually really, in my opinion, phenomenal. Because I sell valves to the nuclear power stations, so I see this huge development. And not only this, they have coal power plants, they have even green as a new energy power plants. But they know exactly if you're only focusing on the new, new green energy, you will fail. So that is why the Chinese are very smart how to play the game. They, of course, have even in China, if you go to the Inner Mongolia, they have a lot of green energy there. A lot of windmills, they're producing power and so on. But in Europe, especially in Germany nowadays, we don't have any nuclear power stations or coal power plants. You know what I mean? We living on the sun, solar technology that maybe gives enough power to the industry and to the peoples. Why? Actually, it's impossible. So in this case, I think how we can match up with the Chinese in this moment or with the whole world, I think it's impossible. Because even if you concern the LNG ships, LNG tanks, that get produced in China. So, and even the LNG gas, where it comes from? It comes from Qatar, it comes from USA, it comes from several other places. And if you see, we don't have anything. So I think that is the key point why I stay here in China. It's like I say, the China speed is so incredible, even with to create new ecosystems for green technologies or for nuclear power plants. That is unmatched. It's really totally unmatched. So that's why K&L is the interface for European companies to come to China for the supply chain, because we go on site, we check everything, we really ask very clearly our customers what they need, what's their standard, which standard is required. So, and this is, I think, a really, really important issue for us, because what the West misunderstood is, in my opinion, is the cost structures. China operates not on, China operates on execution structures. So, and what the European people underestimate is the process discipline, the engineering capacity, and the speed of coordination. So China is not a cheap manufacturing anymore. It's a high-performance industrial infrastructure. So, and this is, I think, what the whole world nowadays sees. And I think to be here, to have the right mindset and the right connection, can help us together with European companies even for the growing of the industrial infrastructure in Europe or for the whole European community. So that's why now, after last week, I read an article that the EU is going back and say we need power. So it means there will come even new power stations we're building up. I think it will be for sure small nuclear power stations. So in this case, I'm pretty sure that we will deliver not only the best quality, we will even deliver the best solution for the German companies, because the key point is, in my opinion, is if you send your employees to here, it costs you too much money. So it means you need a counterpart here. That's why I say we are the interface for this special situation. And we already stay in contact with two big companies. And I'm pretty sure that we will have in the next 3 to 6 months a huge development. Why? Because we understood that the whole world needs energy. So in this case, we already develop, in our case, what is the best, what can we do that that the people not think we are only a small trade company. No, we're an executor of supply chain. And now even for EPC contractors. And that is our key point. And that is why I say very clearly, we are staying here in China because it's a high-performance industrial infrastructure what we can use, and we can give the best solution to our customers. And we will reach out not only now for Europe. We already have, counterparts in Turkey. We build up now counterparts in Saudi Arabia. And we're growing, because we know exactly the situation is going. Because now we have everywhere in the whole world, we have wars. If it's the Middle East war, if it's the Ukraine war, and so on. So it means what they need supply. They need supply chain, because a society needs water supply, it needs energy supply, it needs a lot of other infrastructure supply when we actually be here. So that is what we will provide to our customers. And we already will have in the next 3 months our own valves. We already now starting up to produce our own valve series in China. So that is not only that the people say it's OEM, we have then two choices. We can sell it as an OEM brand, and we can sell it in our name. So and this brand and this valves is for not only for example for power plants, it's even for LNG. And this there's a lot of criteria are playing for this special valves, because you have a lot of safety factors, and we match all of them. So a lot of things were coming up and stay tuned. The lowest cost suppliers are irrelevant in serious projects. Today, China is about, like I say, new technologies, precision manufacturing, certified production, project reliability. Not all, but I think it covers, 80%. So, and even we have still, some top technologies in Europe. What in the moment the Chinese not, I say at the moment what the Chinese are not able to match. But they have this good enough product. For example, the European is, for example, 95% or 100%, and the Chinese maybe it's 80%. So it's very, you have to understand the situation. For example, if it's new, it's a project is coming up in, for example, now in Africa or in Europe, the Europeans say, no, I want to have this 100%, product. So they will go after it and use the European goods. For Africa, they say, okay, maybe we don't have so much money, but we even need this technology. They use the Chinese ones. And the Chinese even study with each project. If something is failed, they know how to fix it. So they fix the problem and study with it. So they go and reach out with 2 or 3 projects later that they have almost the same knowledge and the same quality as European. So then they go to projects, and if their bidding is coming, of course they will win because their costs are lower. So some of the end users will say, okay, I decided to use the Chinese ones. Some of the end users will say, no, I still rely on the European. That's fair, that's a market. Everyone can choose by themselves, it's a free market. But like I say, the R&D research for a lot of products in China shows me that they are on the right track. And in Europe, the key point is that from the politician side, that the politics are actually not cover this. They think in a totally different mind. Because why? Because they are not engineered there. Maybe some of them was working in the past in a free industry. But nowadays, no, they are politicians and they have a totally different mindset. So that's just why I know exactly that China will even growing. Because even India is growing. So if you see from the whole world, the 2/3 of the world population lives in Asia. So it means here will still, the R&D research will move on very quick. So even I get questions from European peoples, how do you think, Thomas, how we can even catch up? I say very clearly, that's almost impossible the next 4 or 5 years. Almost impossible. Why? Because the European community have bring up too much laws, what actually is, it's like a car, it's a brake. It breaks the technology. It breaks actually a lot of, supply chains where the people have to rely on China. And now what I'm seeing is, especially after COVID, that a lot of companies going back to Europe and say, okay, take a part of the supply chain from Europe, because if something has happened, we have still our market where I can really still receive my goods, to move on. So what I think is, it's no joke, the real competitive advantage in China is the speed, is the scale capacity for large projects, and the execution. The quality and the compliance come from factory selection, what we're doing always, the on-site supervision, the inspection system, and the documentation control. And the documentation is almost the same. Because if you see, for example, the DIN norm or the Chinese norm, it match almost the same. So it means you can even sell a lot of DIN products in China. And even a lot of DIN products are produced in China for the European market. So it's actually a good match for everyone if you know how to handle and how to scale it. Because what I figured out nowadays that a lot of top managers, or I see middle-sized managers, they come to China and they think, okay, I read 5 books or 6 books, see some podcasts, and they know the Chinese mentality. So it's a totally different issue because we're living over 20 years in China. So to study the environment, we each day staying here and each day new standards coming up. So what we're doing is always we're focusing on the 5 years plan of the Chinese Communist Party, because it's actually a very good roadmap for everyone, where we know exactly which industry we're growing, which industry the Chinese government will actually support, and where we have to pick up our ideas from a European side to say, okay, if this is coming nowadays in China, that maybe it will come even to Europe, that we can cover this up, and build up from this our advantages as well. Because if not, the Chinese competitors, the Chinese will come into the European market like nowadays and will catch up a lot. So it means we already face a lot of competition from the Asian part. So how the European can catch up is not only with the best product, it means you have to develop new products, you have to develop new technologies. So, and for really critical technologies, I will never move to any country. I will stay in my home country, in my homeland, and say, okay, I develop it here. So why? Because about the security. For example, we have in Germany only one satellite. If you see, for example, Elon Musk, they have 9,000 satellites. So something is going in the wrong direction. So we have to concern our own. So how we can catch up. So and now going back for our supply chain from K&L Industries, we check up we check up everything, what actually can help us for development, what actually can help us to give our customers the right suggestion to make the right choice. So and that is why, in my opinion, is we sitting here in China and have a lot of connection with different supply channels, different producers, and we know exactly how to balance it. And I think at the end of the day, you have always to balance it, like I say, the factory selection, the on-site supervision, the inspection systems, the documentation that we follow up, that what the customer required us. Because in this case, we can follow up the standard of the customers, and we can always integrate the new control systems, what's placed in China nowadays. Because the government here is really supporting the Chinese companies to go abroad, to show them that we have the new technology and that we know that we are able even to place these new technologies in other countries, so that everyone knows exactly that the Chinese future stays not only in China, even goes abroad. And I think that is a very, very, very big key point for the Chinese companies. And even with these measures, they improve the quality, so that the quality issue, like we had in the past, is nowadays very, very, very seldom comes, that they can't catch up to our new technologies. So, and this is, I think, the engineered and enforced, not assumed. That's why K&L operates in China and build up their counterparts in the Middle East, in Europe, and I hope so in the next 1 or 2 years that we even stay in South America, because there is even a huge demand, and that is what we try to focusing. Yeah, how trust is built with our Chinese partners is the trust is not built through contracts. It's built through consistency, face-to-face interaction, and execution under pressure. So if you're only showing up when you need something, there is no real relationship. So it means you have always contact, have a really frequently contact with your counterparts in China. Visit them, have several, maybe each 2 months, a dinner, and discuss what kind of projects they have, what kind of new products they develop, how is your actually status in the moment to sell more of their products. Or even I have a Chinese customer that asked me, Thomas, I need special material, can you import this from Europe to China? And we even now help him out with this issue. So like I say, we try to be the interface between China and Europe, Europe and China. So because I think we will try always to 平衡 in Chinese called 平衡. So it means we always try to balance. And I think it's very, very important to balance. So that's why we create 1.5 years before our own roadmap, K&L, and we follow up. And at this stage, it's very successful. That you stay behind your ideas, that you stay behind your roadmap, and that you even take always in consideration if you do business with other cultures, that you know exactly what that means. So it means for me, it's three big points where we always taking really care about this and concern a lot. There's one thing is the analytical part. So where's our advantage, where's their advantage? So if I see I have more advantage like them, so I would try, like to say, I'd like to try to balance it. So it means that not only I take the most profit, that I will share even the profit, that the other counterpart even say, oh, he's a reliable partner, and that he really likes to develop with us together. Because I think it's very important for the relationship, for this business relationship. Process driven, it means if I need a special product, I have this last year this issue that we get from a foreign customer, some request, and we have produced four different valves. And because they even want to save money, so I say, okay, it's a small risk, we do it. Then we have sent out the goods, and we figured out, doing this process, after we send out the goods, there is some better conclusion. Now we already going back to our supplier and explain the situation, and we have developed together something out. So this now exactly, so the cost is almost the same. It's only a little bit higher, but that's not the big issue. The issue is that we have analyzed our problems, that we have analyzed even what the customer's request is, and that we have solved it. So it means if it's coming to these orders for the future, we will have our new solution, and this solution will 100% satisfied. What that means is that we sitting together with our customer in one boat, we listen the problems, we analyze the problem, and then take the action it calls for us, the process-driven part, and then we even take the risk averse. So it means if we do like this, if the customer uses, how big is his risk? Why? Because if the customer uses for infrastructure projects and something has happened, so he will come and say, Thomas, sorry, you have failed. So then it's a big part for us. So that's why we do like this, that to limit the risk, first we give him some parts and say, please try it. And if he's satisfied with this, then we go back to the original supply, and then I say, okay, no, we follow your demand. Because we know from the technical part that it's not a big issue. The customer uses already on site for the project, and he has no any compliance, so it means we're on the right track. So, and this how we develop these things and how we work it. For me, it's not so important to make the deal. Of course, we have to make the deal. Everyone needs to earn money. But we want to earn the money that the customer see, okay, the management of K&L Industry, he only not think about or only makes the money. No, he has everything already, analyzed, and know exactly which way we go. And we always stay in contact with our counterparts and explain that is our step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And they follow us because they see that we really have this good relationship with our customers. And if the customer have a problem, that we can help them out. Because this is the service of K&L Industries. Not only with the supply chain, even with an EPC contractor. We had last year a big project for Iraq, for oil project. So, and we delivered over 280 pieces. These pieces, but the product was not producing in China, it was from Europe. Because the insurance companies told us very clearly, we want the products then from foreign countries, from Europe, because it was actually even a European community-driven project. So, but the supply was mainly from China. So that is why we really was able to receive the order, follow up with European standard, and work with the Chinese supply companies as well, with these EPC contractors, and it was very successful. So, in my question is how we develop the good relationship how we can manage even, how to say, to earn money, how we can, how to say, try to eliminate almost all risk is we try with our counterparts, always stay in contact, like I say, always try to develop something with him together, even let him know for which project we're working. But what we even do is we write an NDO, non-disclosure, as NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So it means he can't interfere in this project. Because that is why I don't make too much advertisement in the internet. Because with most of the companies, I do this NDA agreement, non-disclosure agreement, because it's for me very important, because everyone is totally nowadays open. So we don't want it to be open. We only want to work with the top ones, and don't want to make too much advertisement for something, because at the end of the day, we sell products and the service. And if my customers are satisfied with it, that's for me totally enough. And this is our philosophy. And this is how we develop even now in Middle East, in Europe, more and more customers, because we have already this established in the past, this networking. And they understood my meaning. And after you explain your view about nowadays that everything is, totally transparent, it's fine. But for us, it's not the key point. The key point for us is to give the customer the best supply, the best product, the best service. That is for me the key point. And while this is the key, that is even, I think, a very struggling point for a lot of Western companies, because they over-contracting start building relationship, they slow decision makings, very slow decision makings, and no presence on the ground. And last but not least, it's no technical, understanding of production. So that you have always this back and forth. This we don't like. So that is what we try, to avoid, to lose time. We try to avoiding, like I say, from the analysis part, from the process part, to give the customer, he give us his requirement, and we follow up the requirement with the local companies and give them the result and say, so you give us, for example, you give us solution A, now we have even solution A and B. So it means our customer have 20 problems, we take 5 problems from him, so he's only taking care about 15 problems. The other 5 problems, we give him 2 solutions. Why we give him a solution? Because that he even understood, okay, that's only not the view of one part, it's a view of the second part. And I think that's even nowadays very, very important. So to manage in China remotely, that doesn't work. That is for sure, that doesn't work. So we follow our own strategy, our own philosophy, and we follow our own K&L roadmap. And until now, we are very successful. Or they're adapting to change, especially in China, is very, very important. Because, in my opinion, the China speed. Why? Because decision chains are shorter. Government's industry alignment is higher and is tighter. And the factories are used to volatility. So they don't wait for clarity, they move and adjust. Though that is a different issue. So the lesson for Europe is reduce decision layers, accept, calculate risk, integrate suppliers earlier, and move from planning to execution faster. Speed is becoming more important than ever, and even more important than sometimes the 100% perfection. And I think that is a really, really critical point. The management risk globally is we can't avoid to be here, to work with them hand in hand, because you need to structure it. How you structure it is very clear. Multi-score supply. Second is regional diversification. Very, very important. Diversification is very important. Strong local partners, like I always say. Continuous monitoring, that you go on site. If a project is coming, that you go on site and see at which stage are the products are already produced, if they follow up all the standards, what you have for discuss with with your counterpart, with the Chinese counterpart, and how you become more involved in the project, that your counterpart in Europe can rely on your management, can rely on you, on your service, and can rely on you on your perfection. I think that's very important. So K&L try to reduce risk by being inside the system, not outside it. Like I say, we try to be in the middle. So if you stay in the middle, so it means you get the information from the German counterpart and from the Chinese counterpart. So it means we can direct, because the time gap in the sum of the 6 hours is for me very important. Why? Because if I get some information from the Chinese part, I can already talk with the Chinese part, everything in detail, get the information. And if the German part or European part, how to say, go to work, we can immediately send a report to them and explain the actual status. So that is, I think, even like a roadmap. We follow always a roadmap. And this, until now, I have to say that's very cool. Because if you make a benchmark between European companies, like I say, and Chinese companies, the benchmark is nowadays, it's different. And why it's different? Because the Chinese use the local philosophy and the foreign philosophy together. So for the European part, it's very difficult to put it in, because they have only their own philosophy. So it means we try, how to say, to interfere and match everything together, that everything is in line, so that no one needs to concerning, or are we on the right track, or are we using the right material, or are we working with the same standard? So they don't need to be worried about this, because we take care about all this infrastructure. We're taking care about this whole chain. And I think that's very important for us, that we don't need give any counterpart these feelings or something is not aligned. So that is for us very important. To looking ahead, you know, what we even listen in the parties, for example, that some people say, we need the Chinese market, we need the Asian market. Is this, I say it now, I think the press in the past call it decoupling. I think this issue is, I don't know how to say this. It's not right. It's actually a political instrument, not for the industry, for the industries. Because at the end of the day, we have to work hand in hand together. So otherwise, why so many foreign companies in the past come to China and build up, make a huge investment here, building up factories and move on with the technology. So nowadays, from the political part, is that they say, we can produce maybe part A, for example, in Europe, and part B in China. So it means that the right product is coming out part C. That is maybe something, because you have to diversify this, not disconnecting. You need diversifying your product, you need diversifying your company, you have to diversify from the market, but not disconnecting, because it makes, in my opinion, no sense nowadays, because you can't avoid to work here hand in hand with Chinese supply companies. That is, you can't avoid anymore. And China remains core for industrial, for industrial and critical infrastructures in industries. So you have to work on it. But like I say, if you have your standard, you let us know your standard. We will talk with our supplier chain in China and make sure that we follow up exactly your ideas, your standards, and then that we match this together internally. Like I say, we build up then a roadmap, and we will always let the customer know at which stage in the moment they are. That's, I think, very important, because they don't need to ask. They know exactly that we follow up the whole things. So how we're focusing in the next 5 or 10 years is very clear. The supply chain must resilience. The compliance and traceability must be always showing, not to be avoid. So the customers can look into it and know exactly at which stage we are in the process. strategic sourcing is, I think, very important. I think that is more important than ever nowadays. That's for sure. Not opportunities buying, sondern you buy or you sell something what you know very clearly that from a strategic point you can make it, you can do it. So that you don't let other people think, or maybe they talk too much, or maybe they say they can, but they can't. So that is, you have to make sure, especially in our case, because like I said, we are the interface. So and even we working now with really big companies together, and I think sooner or later we will even make huge progress for supplying for big EPCs, for big, European companies, stock market companies. We say in Germany AGs, and German middle-sized companies, so that we know exactly, they know exactly how we know to balance the regional balance and the balance from Europe and from China, that we know exactly. They know that the alternatives, not either or whatever. So that, I think, the key advantage or the key advice is stop treating China as a supplier. We have to start remaining and treating it as a strategic industrial partner. I think that's very, very important. And more companies do this, but the key point is they say they do this, but if they really do this, it's a different issue. So the closing line for K&L is very clear. In global industry, success is no longer about cost. It's about who controls execution across borders, who controls the management, and not only the management, even the material supply, to avoid big problems. So that is why we are here. And I think what we trying nowadays is to reach out for EPC contractors. Even some EPC, like I say at the beginning, even already reached to us out. So EPC don't need vendors. EPC, they need delivery certainty. So, and K&L Industries already reach a position where we say single point of responsibility from sourcing, QA, QC, delivery, full documentation control, we already deliver, and we already can follow up. Otherwise, we couldn't, did last year this big project in Iraq. Zero gap coordination between factory and site, I think, is even very important. And the outcome is K&L becomes part of the project execution chain and not look at the supplier. Because even we supply the things, but the execution comes even from us up. So how we can control this global network from the supply side is not many suppliers, few controlled audit manufacturers we ask about even their standards, the local standards, what kind of certification they get from the local government, even which certificates they have from the TÜV Germany, TÜV Rheinland or TÜV Süd. And this helps us a lot to find a strategic factory partner. It helps us exclusive of semi-exclusive production slots and multi-country backup. So it means if we have something, we can get the best thing from China, but even India, for example, or Japan or Vietnam have for this critical part, a better product, then we combine this together. So we are only not focusing on one market, like I said, we're focusing on the Asian market. Because 2/3 of the population from the whole world lives in Asia. So it means you have to think outside the box. So this is what we're doing with K&L. And our outcome is that we think for sure that the EPC contractors will not only support us, they will even trust us. So because why they will trust us and help us? Because during the conversation at the start, with working hand in hand with the EPC contractor or with the big middle-sized company, German or European company. So they know exactly that we know from the first step We understand what they need, their requirements. We try to build up for the special project always there is a unique ecosystem that we know exactly from the quality, from the standard, and from the internal issues, how each company work with the individual's standards, that we combine this together. I think that's very, very important. This is actually very unique. And this is why K&L actually try to dominate it with certification, like it's an RPE, it's an ASME, ISO standard or whatever, full traceability, the full traceability of inspections, full traceability of supply chain, full traceability from the outcome of the project. So, and this is why K&L remove risk, because we try default choices. Win on speed in China is very, very important. Why? Because speed is where projects are win or lost. And one of these key points is the quotation turnaround, hours, not days, production alignment, before PO finalization, and the real-time updates from factory floor, like I said to you, because we have the 6 hours difference in the winter, 7 hours, so it means we always stay in contact with the manufacturer. So it means we can always update it, the German part. And even that saves them a lot of money and a lot of time. And this outcome is for K&L, I think, a big advantage. Not that we even only sell products from Europe to the Chinese market, not only from the Chinese market to Europe. So it means that we even our supply management service feels totally with this nowadays requirement. And I think that is very important. EPC work globally, K&L must match that footprint. I think there is no other way around. So that is why China is for us the execution base, Europe compliance and client interface, and the Middle East and Southeast Asia is from the project proximity is the best choice for us. So local presence, fastest decision, plus higher trust. So the outcome is K&L is seen as a global operator, not as a regional supplier. And that is what we need. That is what we want. So we win with this combination, China's execution power, European compliance, discipline, and global project presence. I think this combination is exactly what we are in the last 1.5 years actually focusing. Because from the start of K&L industry, we are focusing first of our mainland Chinese customers. After we have established all these lines, we have established them from last year. The second part was with, not import goods, even with the exports. So, and this is the key point, what is now really growing. And our third match is very important now to go build hand-in-hand a relationship with different EPCs, if it's in Europe or in Asia, to let them know we will take care about this whole supply management, about all technical issues, and that the people know exactly that will be on time. And that is for us very important. So that is why we have even now more and more products coming in our range. Why for us very important, for example, in the past we only sell the valves or export the valves. Now we have with piping, fittings, the same thing. Because why? Because for projects you need pipes. So we're working only with the best one in China. And of course the condition is better like others. So what we try to avoid is that any time problems coming up for projects, because time is money, so that we can rely, or the customer can rely on our services, that we take care about everything, that we explain to the customer. We not only sell to you the best valves, I think in the next 3 months even our own valve productions, we even sell the pipes, what you need. So it means if you have a project in Europe and this comes to a bidding, that you still have enough margin to support your company, to develop your company, but at the same time you have the same standard, so like your local competitors, and that you can say, okay, I have a German management system established in China with K&L, so I can even go outside the regional part. So I can maybe even work for projects, even I can execute projects in Europe, so in Poland, or for example, Slovakia, or in Italy, or in French. And this is actually what we try to build up. So with our Turkey counterpart, we already did really some amazing works. And with Saudi Arabia, I think with the Middle East, it will, after the war, I think we will continue. And I guess we can even get even new clients, because the infrastructure must be built up again from zero. So, and now we are specialized for petrochemical companies, chemical companies, for semiconductors, and so on. We're on the right track. And we only say the best to the customers, because I say to everyone, I don't want to be in the middle. I want to be a key player in the niche section. And that's what we're doing. And I think for this, how to say, tailor-made management service, supply service, we're on the right track.